revoici ensemble donc pour passer cette deuxième.
So here we are for the second part of this day. We're going to discuss mobility. Our main witness would be the mayor of Toulouse, Jean-Luc Moudenc. Is he with us? Because I can't see here. Yeah, here he comes. I can see him in the remote. Okay, this is a Vincent Beaufils challenge. I'm happy to see you. Very disappointed not to have you with us here in Paris physically. We like having you. We like Toulouse. We can spend a few minutes together and open this session on mobilities. Why is it that we constantly refer to mobility? For those of you who watched the workshop we had earlier today, is because transport is very significant. It's a topic of concern for everyone here in France, and particularly for elected officials, mayors, among others. Jean-Luc Moudenc, you had decided you would challenge carbonation or fight for decarbonization in transports. How are we going to go about this? Thank you for this invitation. I, too, am sorry not to be physically present. Many things that keep us very busy and therefore unable to travel. So this question is key. Metropolis, and this is a reminder, emit 2/3 of the total emissions of a country. So when we discuss planning or priority given to ecological or environmental transition, let's focus on large cities and metropolis. You've just stated so. You have to use a number of levers, and the first lever, the one that is most effective, is mobility. And this is why a few years back we decided to start a very ambitious plan. We are the large town that invests the most in alternative transport, alternative to individual cars and to transport, public transport. We've created a new line of metro, a new system. We are busy building a third metro line, which is the most relevant transport means. Same thing in Paris. Once this metro line will start operating with 80,000 vehicles that will be removed from the streets, so that from the east to the west of Toulouse, it will catch, as it were, as many passengers as possible. And we've been working on efficient buses, more frequent, that will travel throughout the day until the late hours of the day, and we find there's an increase of 40% in the use made of passengers of these buses. I've increased the budget dedicated to bicycle rider lines that will join the heart of the city to the outskirts with comfortable, safe lanes dedicated to cyclists, bicycle and motor riders. And this is why insisting, so that eventually financing is increased. And now there means so many constraints, financial constraints on us. And other times, we're getting less money from the central government, tax relief which is not really properly offset or compensated. So we live in a tense situation. For the past 30 years, after the initial decentralization law, that was back at the time of François Mitterrand, we relied on the natural development of communities. Now we've entered a different area, which is characterized by the lack of financial stability. So, hit by the COVID crisis, our policy in terms of urban transport should be the main levers of the ecological transformation of our cities. And this is why the mayors of large cities are asking the central government to remove the cap on the way we used to think and work, where the main resource to fund public transport, that is a special allocation. In the provinces, we are limited to 2% of the payroll of companies that have only 11 employees. Well, this maximum level has been exceeded. It's now at 3.2. In other words, there's an unequal treatment between France, the provinces, and Paris, or the metropolis, the large cities. So we plead in favor of decapping. It doesn't mean that we should be endowed to the same level as Île-de-France, but we want to be able to, for a number of cities, large cities, not all of them, but the largest one, based on selective criteria, the possibility to go above 2%. And we need to get our money back. First, you need to have a satisfactory or offer, ambitious projects that can enhance this offer, the supply. Low emission offer are the problem. We don't have it yet. Giving the possibility to move around, which is very more complex with the population. If you want to have them use something else than the car, the public transport, there's no other way. You have to develop and encourage public transport. And then this determination on the part of the state, the central government, which we call the RER Metropolitan. Now we call it SEM, Express Service, Regional and Metropolitan Express Service. That is the concept that on many different topics, intermodality, railways or railroads, a connection between railways and conventional transportation, there has to be a new project for metropolis, I would say beyond metropolis, in order to decarbonize mobilities that transportation means. These are virtuous objectives, but they are extremely costly, and we can't possibly fund them unless we create a new resource. And this is why we're fighting this fight with a dialogue. Companies that do contribute here, 60% in tax revenues coming from these companies, the rest coming from the central level. So I suggest we introduce corporations, make them part of our deciding bodies. So far, we have only elected officials. Why not include the Chamber of Commerce, which is a public instrument of the state, so that they can share in the decision-making process? At the moment, they are being consulted, there are meetings held, it's a very flexible system. That would be a change. It would become a more formal structure. they would participate to the funding of public transportation, in exchange of which they would have to a voice in the projects. And this is my vision of the system, as well as other mayors who want to encourage the decarbonization of local transport. If I may, I would like to react to this so that we get more resources and to uncap the system. My question to you is, why or how are the companies, private corporations in Toulouse, to what extent are they supportive of your system? They might also consider that it would be an additional cost on their shoulders. In other words, are you really sure they are ready and willing to support you and give you more resources to promote local or urban transport? Of course, we had a discussion with the Chamber of Commerce, the MEDEF, and CPME. And I could see that opinions are mixed. Let's be honest, the MEDEF is very much opposed to it, as to the other economic stakeholders. Their attitude is far more nuanced. I'm not pleading in favor of generalization of decapping that might send a negative message as to the competitiveness of French companies, which has been an issue for many, many years. What I'd like to suggest is selective criteria so that large cities, large towns, as I described them earlier, are in a position to take part of the uncapping. You know, companies, corporations are not enthusiastic vis-à-vis this approach. But what else could we do? If you expect the central government to find other resources, that would be extremely difficult. Now, not so many levers apart from what I've just described from you. Okay, you told us about the means you've developed in Toulouse in terms of public transport. Could you please tell us, to feed in this debate we're having, could you tell us what you've done so far to encourage public transport? How did it reflect in terms of tons of CO2 that was avoided? Do you use an indicator so that we could say, okay, Toulouse has gone for the right approach? Yes, there are such indices, but there's another indicator, the number of persons who use public transport. When you start developing a network, it is in order to get a change in attitudes, what they call an induction. In 2023, we're back to the level of travels with the new system. We come just after Paris and Lyon in terms of public transport. So I can't give you figures because I don't have it in my head. I don't know how many tons of CO2 were spared. What I can tell you for sure that is, unless we had developed this new offer to become solid and to grow, then of course CO2 polluting emissions would have been far higher than they are. It is indeed the same story over and over again. You know what the price is, decarbonization is. It's very high. It's always too high, but it's far lower than the price of doing nothing. Thank you very much for opening this session. I wish you a nice afternoon in Toulouse, and now I'm back here to open this second part of this session on mobility. Thank you, Mr. Moudenc, and see you next year, either here in Paris or in Toulouse.